Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to 2023. We've made it. I don't really know what that means. I just feel like I have to say that because it's the new year and the last couple of years have been pretty challenging. So yeah, I guess good job making it to 2023. This is a time of year where we all set our goals and expectations and also reflect on those goals and expectations that we didn't meet from the previous year. A lot of us set new goals and expectations for ourselves based off the previous year or previous years of things that we've been working on, things that we wanted to accomplish. But I think on the other side of things, there are people who get really discouraged at this time of year because they're like, man, I had all these goals and I didn't meet any of them. And the thing that I was thinking about the other day is a lot of times, like, we do have these goals and we have these time frames in which we set for ourselves by it being, in this year, I'm going to finish this thing. And the thought that came to mind the other day was, well, what if we didn't have a way to track 365 days? What if we didn't have a calendar that told us that this is when our year starts and this is when our year ends? Would that change the way that we think about how we set our goals or think about, when a goal should be finished? I think there are a lot of times when we set goals and we get to the end of the year and it's not done, and then we just end up being like, that's it, I'm gonna cut it here and I'm just gonna restart all over again. Just because your year ends doesn't mean that goal, that expectation is cut off. You can just take what you did and just kind of continue it on from there. Sometimes it takes time for us to realize how long a certain goal would actually take us. You might have thought, man, I thought this was only gonna take me a year, but it might have taken 2.5 years to do so. And I don't think that comes from a lack of trying or being lazy. Sometimes we just might not know enough about the goal that we're trying to reach to know how long it's actually gonna take. One example, every year my dad asks our family, if we read the Bible in a year, and I will say the last couple of years I've said no. And every year I'm always like, all right, start of the new year, I'm gonna start at the very beginning. But I realized that once I've done that, I've only gotten so far into reading it that I never get to finish it because I just restart every single time. If I were just to continue where I left off, I would have finished it a long time ago. So I want to encourage you guys, for those of you guys who had goals that you have from last year or maybe 2 years ago or even 5 years ago, and you've been slowly working at it and progressing in it, just continue. But on the flip side of things, I think it's also very important that we give ourselves a timeline in which we do things. In the long term, we have this goal, but have short-term goals in between them to know that we are actually working at it and we are actually taking steps forward. Just for myself, I have a lot of expectations for myself and goals for myself for, creating more content on YouTube and also trying to balance it out by making shorts because that's what YouTube wants. Making sure that I can still be physically fit to coach my kids with football. Like, I have a lot of things that I want to do, but if I just leave them in these broad general expectations or goals, it's really hard for me to track what I actually want to do or how I'm going to accomplish these things. So I would encourage you guys, especially after it's been a week since this new year has started, that, take some time to yourself if you haven't already, and maybe not necessarily, if you're not ready to, don't set all these goals for yourself, but maybe just reflect on this past year, the last couple of years, things that maybe you wanted to do, but you kind of put on the side, or things that you kind of started, but then you lost that motivation to do so, or you forgot why you wanted to do those things in the first place. And I feel like a time of just really thinking about where you are, what you want to do, where you want to head is a really important step to kind of setting these goals for ourselves. Because I feel like without that self-reflection, certain default answers that come up is, I want to make more money this year. I want to be more physically fit. I want to, spend more time with family. I want to read more books and things like that. There's nothing wrong with those 4 things I just listed there, but it's like, okay, if those are things that I want to do, what can I do to make sure that I work on those things as the year goes on? So one thing I want to do is get rid of that stigma, that notion that everyone's goals are supposed to be completed within a 365-day whatever, because it's just not true and it's not going to happen. Sometimes your goals will finish sooner, sometimes they'll finish later, and then your short-term goals will allow you to track whether or not you're on schedule or not. And I think that's the thing that's most important things that even myself, I need to work on for sure. So you guys might be wondering, why am I making this video? Where did this video come from and all this kind of stuff? And you know, the funny thing is, when I first started this YouTube channel was not a cooking or barbecue channel. This was a channel that I made while I was living in Texas, and I wanted to make vlogs to share with people about what I'm doing, where I'm at mentally, and also in hopes that as I work through my stuff, that it'll help other people to kind of work through theirs. Or at least sometimes I feel like when you hear someone else talking about it, it allows you to kind of articulate certain things better in your own mind, because it's just a different voice that you haven't heard before. And I'm not saying that my voice is right. I'm not saying that I have the answers. I'm sharing this because there are things that I'm working through as well. And so what I hope to do is to give you guys certain things that I'm working through, and in hopes that just as we're trying to get better cooking barbecue together, there's other things outside of just cooking that we can work on together as well. I think when all those other things are figured out, ultimately the food gets better too. In all honesty, when I'm stressing out, the food is not as good as when I'm having a good time and I know what I'm doing. So, but yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this video. There are a lot of other things that I want to talk about as well. And so what I hope to do is to have a weekly cook video, and then also another video throughout the week where I can just kind of talk about certain things that maybe aren't necessarily food related, but things that I was going through during that time that allowed me to kind of grow and to progress, not just as a cook, but as a person, as I was going through my early to mid 20s, and things that I wanted to kind of get better at, and how I worked through my kind of insecurities as someone who wasn't part of the industry, as someone who still is uncomfortable talking to a camera, but I'm getting better at it. And those are things that I want to share with you guys, because as much as food is important, I think the person who's cooking the food is more important. And that's what I want to focus on in this new year as well. So thank you guys for watching. I'll also leave links to 2 videos of the style I was doing way earlier, just so you give you guys an idea of things that I was doing back then, things that I was talking about, and I still kind of continue to work through in my head. And if you guys are watching this on a Sunday, I hope you had a great weekend, and I hope that this conversation kind of allows you later tonight as you go to bed to allow you to think through some stuff. So tomorrow on Monday, as you go through work or through school or whatever you got going on, it just gives you something to think about, so you don't dread Monday just being Monday so much. But thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.